Okay, today we're going to simplify square roots, and it does parallel with our prime factorization that we've been doing with the factor trees. So let's take a look at this. 3 squared. Now that exponent, as we know, means how many times we're going to be writing that number. So in this case, we have 3 squared. That will equal 3 times 3. So we have our main number, and then the exponent tells us how many times we're going to write it. And if you put in your calculator 3 times 3, that will give us 9. So when we talk about square roots, we're going to talk about the square sign, which is called the radical. So if we have the square root of 3. Now when you have that and nothing is in here, always imagine that the number 2 is here. So that means we know that 2 numbers multiplied together will give us what the square root is. So in this case in your calculators, the square root of 9 will be 3. So let's take a look at our example, the square root of 20. Now if you put down your calculators, you're not going to get a nice number. It'll be a number with a decimal. So we're going to factor tree this one out so we can get all the prime numbers. So we know that 20 is even. So we know that 2 will go in there. 2 is prime, so we'll give it a circle. 2 times 10 gives us 20. 10 can be factored down because it's not a prime number. So we know that 2 will go into that, prime. 2 times 5 is 10, and that is a prime number as well. So on this side, we will write what we have, 2 times 2 times 5. Now in this case, we do have the square root sign, so we have to put a square root here. What are we going to do? So when we simplify the square root, we are going to circle any friends. So we have 2 and 2, so we'll circle those, and those will go in front of the radical sign. Only one. So we will have 2 square root 5 as our final answer. Let's do another. We're going to do a couple of these because this is brand new to us. So we need to figure things out. Number 1, 72. We can do 2, but that would take us a little bit. So we're going to do 8 and 9 on this one. Now 8 and 9 are not prime numbers, so we have to break it down. And break it down again. And we can do our 9, and we just learned, or reviewed, that 3 times 3 is 9. So here we have 5 numbers. I'm going to write over here so we can get a little more space for us. So for here, we can write 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Now we'll put our square root sign because we are simplifying the square root of 72. Now we're going to find our buddies. We're going to find our pairs. We have a pair here, and we have a pair here. What do we do when we have 2 pairs that need to come to the front? We will multiply together. So we have 2 times 3. And then the leftover right here will stay in the square root sign. And then in your calculator, what is 2 times 3? 6. So our final answer will be 6 square root 2. All right, let's come over here and do 75. I'm going to erase the third problem so we have some more room to work with. Let's break down 75. We know that 5 is going to go into it, so let's do that. 5 times what will give us 75? You put that into your calculator. It'll be 15. 5 is prime, we will circle it. 15 is not a prime number because 5 goes into that as well. 5 times what will give us 15? 3, and 3 is a prime number. So here we'll rewrite what we have. We have 3 circles, so we know that we have to have three numbers in here. So the square root, to simplify the square root of 75, would be 3 times 5 times 5. We're going to circle our pairs and bring them to the front. And our 3 is left over, so we'll leave him inside. Let's do another example, and I'll just erase the ones over there. Let's simplify the square root of 140. Big number for us today. That's okay though. What goes into 140? Well, it ends in a 0, so we know that 10 will go into it. And 10 times 14 will give us 140. Now we have two numbers that are composite, so we do need to break those down to find the primes. 2 times 5 will give us 10, and they are both prime numbers. And let's look at the 14, that's an even number too, so we know that a 2 will go into it. And 2 times 7, and it's also a prime. So right now we have 4 circles, so we know that we need to write our 4 numbers inside in numerical order. Just extend that. So we have to simplify the square root of 140 would give us the square root of 2 times 2 times 5 times 7. We'll circle our pairs and bring one up front. But inside we're left with 5 times 7. What are we going to do? So anytime in there, kind of how we multiplied anything that would come out, we're going to multiply again. So here, 5 times 7, 35. So to simplify the square root of 140, our answer would be 2 square root 35. Now let's do another example. How about the square root of 32? 32 ends in a 2, so we know that 2 is going to go into it. But also we can kind of see what else would go into it. We know that 4 and 8 multiplied together will give us 32. 4 and 8 are composite numbers, so we will have to break them down to find the primes. 4, we have 2 times 2. 8, we know 2 is going to go into that. 2 times 4 is going to give us 8. And 4 is a composite number, so we do need to break that down to the primes. And we know here 2 times 2 is 4, so we just bring those numbers over here. So now we are looking at 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. We'll rewrite that within our radical. Now here we'll circle our pairs, and then we have 2 pairs. 2 pairs of 2. 2 pairs of 2. So now we're looking at 2 times 2, 4, and what's left? The square root of 2. So to break down to simplify the square root of 32, we are looking at 4 square root 2. Last example. Let's look at the square root of 16. We'll break it down. What times what equals 16? You can do, let's do 2 and 8. 2 is prime, 8 is composite, so we can break that down a little more. 2 goes into it, 2 times 4 equals 8. 4 is a composite number, so we can bring that down again. 2 times 2. So to simplify the square root of 16, we're going to rewrite all of our 2's. So in our radical sign, we'll have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Circle our So it would be 2 times 2 would go on the outside. We have nothing on the inside right now. Nothing. So we don't have to write the radical sign. So our final answer is just 4. Please review this video if you need additional help, or email me or send me a hangout. Please take notes during this because we will be continuing this all through next week as well. Have a good day.